In this video, we're going to show you how to install a fuel pump module on your Ford Taurus located underneath the back seat. Now we're starting here in the back seat area on the passenger side. You're going to go ahead and grab this little loop here and pull the back seat down. Now there's a trim panel right here. I'm going to use my trim tool. I'm going to go ahead and pop this button out right here. And then go ahead and pull this cover off to the side. Now right here is a component you want to go ahead and get to. Want to press down on this little tab and want to go ahead and disconnect that connector. With that disconnected, we're now going to hop into the vehicle, start it up, and let it run until it dies. At this point here, the vehicle has died out. We have depressurized the fuel system on the vehicle. Let's go ahead and get into it. Go ahead and locate your ground terminal on your battery using a 10mm socket. We want to go ahead and loosen this nut right here. Loosen that and pull it off and set it aside. Now in the lower portion of the back seat, you're going to reach underneath the front here, and there's going to be a little tab here. You're going to be able to move that. You're going to put your finger beside it, and you're going to move it towards the driver's side of the vehicle, and it is a release. I'm going to push this over, lift up on the seat, and that will undo this tab here from the locking mechanism. We're going to go ahead and repeat this process for the driver's side. Lift up. With the front of the seats unlocked, we're going to go ahead in the back section here, and we need to push it in and then lift up on it. I'm going to do the same on the driver's side here. And what we're doing is there is a hook down here that actually engages with a metal loop on the bottom of the seat here, so it actually locks in. Once you have those two hooks undone there in the back, go ahead and remove that seat bottom and remove it from the vehicle. Now with the back seat out, you're gonna go ahead and access your fuel pump. We are behind the passenger side front seat underneath the back here. Now there is an arrow. You want to pay attention to the position of this here. We're going to use our plastic trim tool to get up underneath here, and we need to lift this up and out. And pull this out. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my trim tool and push in on this rubber grommet, just kind of peeling this back. That's going to allow us to go ahead and pull this rubber cover back down the harness and out of the way. Now that's going to expose the top of our fuel pump sending unit right here, the main unit. We're now going to go ahead and disconnect the electrical connector here. There's a little pinch tab on this side here, right over here. We're going to pinch that with our fingers and pull up on that connector. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the other connectors as well. This is just kind of a twisted mess here. There's a connector right here. Push on this little tab right there. And then there's one more down over here. It's the same style connector as this here. You're just going to push down on the little tab up. It's underneath the edge here. Here it is right there. There's a little tab right there you're going to be pushing in on to release that. Go ahead and tuck that harness back wherever you want. It doesn't matter, just get it out of the way. Before we disconnect our fuel connections here, let's go ahead and clean up any debris that's around here, because once we start opening up this system to the fuel tank, we don't want to have any of the stuff fall inside. So you can use some spray solvent and compressed air, blow out any garbage here. You can use a vacuum, anything you want to, just get this clean before you continue. Now we're going to choose to do the compressed air. It's quickest and the most efficient. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses. I'm just using a nylon bristle brush. Let's go ahead and disconnect this line right here. Now there is a plastic horseshoe type connector that wraps around and locks it. There's going to be two little lock tabs. There's one on this side here, one over here. You're going to reach around and pull these outward. You're going to open this up. When you're doing so, use a pocket screwdriver. And there is a little notch right here on the top of this locking tab. You can see that my pocket screwdriver is kind of wedged in there. While opening up those lock tabs, gently pry. And you can see I just popped this little lock tab out right here. Gonna go ahead and release this all the way. Just kind of pry it off using your pocket screwdriver. Gently twist this and work this up and off. Now ours is exceptionally tight. It shouldn't be this tight, but sometimes they are. There is an O-ring seal on this. It's probably just kind of stuck on there, but a little bit of patience. Twisting this around and working this, you should be able to get that up and off. There it is. Now there's a tiny bit of residual fuel there in that line, but that's okay because that's why we depressurize the system from the beginning. On the other side here, this big white clip right here needs to come up and off. This has little tabs on it that go down, and normally if you push in on them, you can get this to release up. I'll show you that once we pop this up and off. And you can use a pick if you want, which we're probably going to end up doing that, or your trim tool, you might be able to get that up underneath to push that little tab in. There it is. You see how that popped up? Now what we want to do is take this T-junction here and push it off of the fuel pump unit. And this has an O-ring seal on it too. It's coming, but it's slow. Once again, take your time. Don't rush this. Now this here is the component we just disconnected, our fuel line with the retaining lock or the clip. Now we can't push this back far enough to get our fuel pump unit up and out. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna follow this hose and it's gonna go underneath. This is gonna be kind of tough to see, but you can see that the line does go back and it has little retaining clips inside there. What you're gonna do is you can use a screwdriver to go in and you're gonna go ahead and open up those tabs there and pull this plastic line up and out. That should give us enough room to go ahead and pull this back and away so we can go ahead and lift up our fuel pump unit. Now we're able to lift that up and out. You can see we have a little bit more flexibility here, which hopefully will be enough for us to do our job here. I'll go ahead and remove my other light here. I'm gonna go ahead and spray around our lock ring here with a little bit of rust penetrant. And then we're gonna get our tool in there and pop that off. I'm gonna go ahead and lower in our lock ring tool. There it is. Now at this point here, our fuel system is still sealed. Our fuel pump is still pressed down into place, and there's a rubber O-ring seal sealing that unit, even though our lock ring is loose. Now this is spring loaded. Once we pull up on that lock collar and we wiggle this a little bit, it's gonna pop up. Make sure that you're working in a well-ventilated area. At least have some fans blowing, exhausting any of these fuel vapors so that you're not breathing this in. Now, I do believe someone else may have already been in here before. There may have been a bracket attaching going to these 3 points here. Normally they're 10 or 12 millimeter nuts. Ours is missing, so you might want to pay attention to that. Ours just came out without it. Next thing, go ahead and take a rag, wipe down around the perimeter, clean up any debris. Once again, cleanliness here is critical. We're going to introduce our drain bucket here, or our catch can, as well as some mats, because we will drip some fuel out of this when we lift it up and out. The key thing is you don't want to get it on your carpets. Go ahead and set that stuff up. All right, let's go ahead and wiggle this. Another thing you want to go ahead and pay attention to is notice where this tab is right here. On the fuel tank, if you look underneath here, there's going to be an arrow actually on the tank itself. That's where this tab needs to go. It's critical to the alignment of this unit, so it lines up with everything here as well as the float and everything down inside. Okay, well, we have a little surprise here. I'm going to show you this here in just a second. Now, on the bottom side here from this port, this goes over to our auxiliary unit on the other side, of the tank. Now, there's a hose that goes to it, and you have to push in a little tab. I'm going to do this here, and then I'll show you once I pull this out. This here is probably the toughest part that you got to do. Okay. And once you disconnect it, you're going to push it off, but I'll show you in just a moment. Now you need to go ahead and finagle this up and out. Now there is a float on it that when we're lifting this up and out, you need to pay attention to. You have to identify where it is, so you have to tilt this off to the side. Now the extra little caveat to this is we're lifting this up. On the bottom side here, there's another hose we need to go ahead and gain access to. So here's another lock unit right here. We need to separate this hose, and it's just like the white connector on the top. You're going to push in on these little tabs here, and you're going to push that off. Now be careful, because we still have the float inside the tank. You're going to pinch these tabs and then pop this hose off. Pull this up and out and put it into your bucket. So this connector here is the one that goes to the bottom of the lid of the fuel pump unit. And here is the little release tab. You're gonna push into release right here. And when you push in, then you have to pull this off of the port going up. The one on the bottom is this one here. Now this is the same style as this here. So if we push it in, you can see that it locks. You're gonna push in on these tabs, releases it, and then you can pull this off of the bottom. So what we need to do is when we get the pump, we need to insert this here. Make sure it's fully seated. If it's not fully seated, you will not be able to push down on it. It's super, super easy. If it's not clipping on, you're not fully seated. Very key bit of information. And as you're doing this, you have to make sure that you get the float down inside, get those connected, and then feed it down inside. While we're here, let's go ahead and remove our O-ring gasket. Set that aside. And the next step is cleaning where the old gasket was. Now ours isn't that bad. I'm gonna put my hand on the inside here just to try and catch any debris as I wipe this around. Try not to get any debris into the tank. Go ahead and install the O-ring onto the tank here. Once you get that O-ring seated, let's go ahead and install our pump. We're gonna lower our float down in and get the lower hose clipped on. All right, push that on and then snap that lock down. All right, we have that fully seated. Then we need to lower this down in. All right, next hose we need to attach to is the one that goes on the bottom side of this upper port. So we're going to lower this down so we can get access to that other hose. It's a little bit of a process, but you can do it. All right. So we have that port. I got to make sure that that hose is locked on. There it is. You can feel it click on. You'll know that it's engaged once you have it in place there. Good, line that up. Don't forget to look for that arrow on the tank to line up that tab there. And honestly, the rest of these hoses pretty much line up exactly where they're supposed to go. So once you line that up and push this down into place, don't forget that grab that lock ring. Push down on that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a brass punch. Don't use a screwdriver. Use a brass punch, and we're going to try and just kind of get this moving on over. All right, twist that until it locks into place. And then we can go ahead and remove the tool. Make sure that our lock is up on this here. Push this back and put it onto the port. Before you pop this on, you want to make sure that the hose itself is back in the retaining lock on the back side. Just push it into place and then pull this on. Same thing with this one as the one inside the tank. It will not lock if it's not all the way on. If it is on, that easy. Go ahead, take this one here, line that up, press that down and on. Don't forget to put your lock on here. Press it on. This point here, we're locked on here, and our retaining ring is secured. Let's go ahead and get all this fun stuff hooked up again. I'm gonna start with the one further over here. Line it up, push it on. You're gonna feel and hear it lock in. Install that other one over on the side here. Push it on, you're gonna feel it engage. And then we have our main fuel pump unit right here. Line that up and push it on. Now that we have the harness installed, let's go ahead and get our rubber grommet put through. You can just work that through with your hand. You can use your trim tool if you want to push that through. Here we go. Beautiful. Now on the bottom side here, there's a little lip that actually locks into the metal here. Arrow faces the driver's side. I'm going to insert the back first. And just gently push this down. Pop it into place like that. Let's go ahead and install the seat. You do want to make sure that your seat belts come up through the notches. Then we have to push down on the back and in. And then on the front side, you're going to make sure that the tab itself goes down inside. Here is that hook. So you want to make sure that this fits down inside there. And you push down. And make sure that's secure. And that is, we're going to go ahead and repeat this process for the driver's side. Push it back and down. I want to go ahead and get that lower tab inserted and push down. Give it a little tug, and that is secured. Good. Pull down on that seat. Let's go and install that connector. You can hear that click. And then we want to pull the trim panel out. And then don't forget to install that little plastic button. You can now flip up that back seat. Grab that ground terminal, slide that over. Make sure that's twisted all the way down. Go ahead and snug this down. Now I'm using a hand ratchet. You don't want to over tighten these here. Using power tools is going to be easier to do that. So snug that down and then give that a twist. Make sure that's good and secure. You want to go ahead and start up the car and go for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.